Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello and welcome back to the channel where you join me for a very exciting day here in Angelholm, Sweden, the home of Koenigsegg, to discover all about this, the Koenigsegg JESKO ABSOLUT. Later on, I'm going to be hopping on board with company founder Christian von Koenigsegg to experience what the Absolute is all about. But before that, we're going to head over to the factory, which is rapidly expanding the new assembly areas, to find out what goes in to making cars like these, the two different derivatives of the Jesko here, the Jesko Attack and the Jesko Absolute. We're going to explore the new areas, quickly expanding, see some of the components and what goes in to exactly the process to make this happen, while the cars are out here being tested on the airfield on Koenigsegg's runway, and then I can jump on board in the Jesko Absolute with Christian to find out even more about it. This is going to be a good day. Let's head over to the factory to start with the whole process behind the Jesko. Here we are then at Koenigsegg, joined by Christian.
Good to see you again, Tim, and welcome back to Sweden and Koenigsegg.
Thank you for having me back and to take us today through the story of Jesko Absolute, but safe to say, things here have changed a little bit.
Yes, we're pretty much on a construction site and have been so for the last year or so. We're expanding our old hangars behind, where we're moving into the last few ones, getting more development area there. And this is really the Gemera facility, new showroom, new sales room, new office spaces, another 11,000 square meters. So it's very exciting times, lots of stuff going on.
For sure, and safe to say, I think you're now 5 times larger probably than when I first came to visit a decade
like
ago.
That, I guess.
But today is about Jesko Absolute, so shall we head inside?
Yeah, join me, please.
Here we are, the showroom.
Yeah, so this is our small factory showroom, and here we have a Jesko engine. This is actually the original show engine back from, I think it was 19 when we showed the Jesko for the first time. It's pretty much the same, still in production today, but the technology has moved on a little bit from the first test cars. We have ion sensing, coils on plugs, we have slightly different exhaust manifolds, slightly different turbos, slightly different alternator. But fundamentally it is the same. But of course it's on the inside where it really is different to previous Koenigsegg engines, as it has a super lightweight 180-degree crankshaft, which completely transforms the engine sound into something different. And different connecting rod, different pistons, different camshaft, different valves, and so on and so on. What is really interesting about it is it doesn't have a flywheel. As with our transmission, the LST transmission, the Lightspeed transmission, we have all the clutches and the components inside the gearbox, including starter motor and so on, that's needed for clutching and so on. So no flywheel and no clutch. So it's the fastest revving engine we have ever heard of or measured ourselves in responsiveness, and you will experience that a little bit today.
I can't wait to hear it. Of course, you have a lovely Regera here as well.
Yeah, beautiful Regera, a bit inspired by, I think, our Swedish colors. Mm-hmm. So it's, quite striking specification.
Definitely. So I remember many days of seeing CC8S, CCR, CCX, CCXR, Agiras inside here. But this is the start. We'll head through, I think, and see more of how all of this happens.
Perfect. So here we are, what we call Hangar 1. This is kind of where we started out here at the airport, building cars and creating our first production line. So here we have the 8-station line where all the Regeras and the cars before it went through. Now we have kind of the last Regera chassis being put together, and we're emptying it out to get the Jesko on the line. And you will see the other part of the Jesko line at our other facility, where we're doing kind of what we call rolling chassis or rolling go-karts. And this is the first of the production Jeskos that has come to this part of the building. This is actually a pre-runner or a pre-production car, kind of flushing through the whole production process. And we have 4 or 5 cars following. They are actually real customer cars. But this is kind of just making sure we have all the processes for the production line working, and then it will become a test car after that.
So in years prior, I remember seeing almost countless cars, obviously in this room, but the new setup means that the facility we'll visit later is where the early stages of the assembly start for Jesko. Yeah.
So we bond the monocoque there, we put the front subframe, the rear subframe, the wheels on it. It kind of looks like a big, large black go-kart. Then they come in on these 2 lines with 4 stations. so we can build them in parallel and speed up the production much faster than we could before. I mean, these cars are still extremely bespoke and takes thousands of hours to put together, so duplication of lines is helpful to get speed, because the station time is still kind of slow. We're aiming for to hit in the summer about a week cycle time, so there is a car going out every week from the line.
Wow, okay.
So that's pretty fast for us and the complexity of the car, but that's what we're gearing up for.
But this room has fundamentally been the place of over 200 cars being assembled now.
Yeah, a little bit over 200, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, faster and faster. Still, of course, extremely labor intensive, very much relying on the skill set of artisans, but streamlining it so we can get a few more cars out.
And I suppose an opportunity for us to see a little bit under the skin of,
yeah,
of the
this
Jesko.
is half naked, I would say, and actually this body is not painted. And we will leave it unpainted since it is a test car for a while at least. Otherwise, it would be painted panels here that you will see on the other line.
The
coming
full
together.
Carbon monocoque with the engine sitting behind. I always find it amazing to see and to even try and get a small understanding of some of your engineering techniques and technologies.
Yeah, it's all it's an evolutionary process of refinement and kind of perfecting at a higher and higher level over time, making it lighter, stronger, new materials, more 3D printing. Yeah, it's amazing how you always can push it one step further from wherever you're at. So the stiffness, the weight, the power, the downforce, the handling of the Jesko is very recognizable as a Koenigsegg, but the next level. Here we are in our engine build room, and actually the new facility we're creating for the Gemera outside, we're going to have triple the size of engine building room, because we're also building the TFG there, and 3 new production dynos, so we can dyno test 3 engines in parallel. Here we only have our small room dyno for the V8, so that will be quite a big expansion, and this will be turned into something else because we will also build the V8 engines for the Jesko in there. And here we have our assembly room for the LST transmission. So here is pretty much one transmission in parts, and here is one transmission, I think, almost finalized. Just waiting for a few parts.
LST light speed transmission.
Yes, and I guess you have seen a couple of mega hypercar transmissions in your life, and if you compare the size of this, especially considering its torque capability of 1500 Newton meters of torque, and that it's a 9-speed transmission, it is super compact.
Yes.
And it weighs less than our previous 7-speed, more AMT-like single clutch type of transmission.
Wow.
So, and it has an electronic hydraulic differential inside as well. And the weight includes the clutch and flywheel and starter motor that you normally would have as the weight on the engine. So not only is this lighter with all of that including, of course the engine became lighter not having a flywheel, a clutch and a starter motor. So it's kind of a win-win situation.
Completely. And shifts faster than ever before.
Yeah, I mean, basically it never shifts, it just clutches. All the shifts are always engaged, you're just choosing which pair of clutches to use. So you have 3 times 3 clutches. You do, if you imagine a row of 3 and a row of 3, and then you can do these together is 1 gear, you can do keep that one and do that, that's another gear, move here, and together with this one is another gear. So 3 times 3 is 9. So we only have 6 gear pairs, but we get 9 gears out of it through compounding these 3 times 3 clutches.
And it can just instantly jump into whichever gear you need.
Yeah, so since we can slip in and out of clutches, they're not synchros or dog rings or anything like that, you can have like a very good, if you have the best kind of DCTs, you don't have any torque dip, we can have that from any gear to any gear, while a DCT can only have no torque dip from the pre-selected gear going from the gear you're in. Here basically all 9 gears are pre-selected. Because you just do this or that, whatever, there is no shifting.
That's amazing.
So it's just clutching. So yeah, it's kind of our trusted V8 in many ways, but very much taken to the next level. The machining of the block is slightly different. It's got slightly different oil jet coolers. It's got slightly different bearings. The crankshaft is 180 degrees instead of 90 degrees. The new connecting rods, new pistons, new camshafts, new cylinder heads, new springs, valves, pretty much everything.
It's new.
But it looks kind of similar.
Yeah.
But it feels very, very different, because until this engine, all the Koenigsegg V8s were more of the traditional V8 sound, even though they were very striking Koenigsegg sounding, I would say. But you could still hear the kind of V8 throb. Well, this is more of a howling engine with a higher pitch due to the 180-degree crankshaft. And given that there's no flywheel or clutch, it revs up like a motorcycle engine or something, which is just unbelievable. So it's kind of exciting how you, with quite simple mechanics, can do so much, because it's very puristic, this engine. It doesn't have so many bells and whistles in like camshaft timing or so on, especially compared to free valve where you can do everything. But with the advanced turbo system, with the unique exhaust headers, with a patented catalytic converter system, and with our very special combustion chamber geometries and intake geometries, you can have full worldwide emission homologation with the highest power output of any production engine in the world compared to its displacement, apart from the TFG, the 3-cylinder,
Yes.
which is at the same level.
But the Jesko's producing big power.
Yes, yes. I mean, we're talking, of course, 1600 horsepower. So it's on renewable fuel, a little bit less on regular petrol, as always with Koenigsegg's. And that is, I think, a good strategy. First of all, of course, we'll get higher octane and more cooling with renewable fuel, but it also incentivizes the driver to run more environmentally friendly.
Yes.
So that's a little bit of an upside. Yeah. So now we're entering what we call Hangar 2. It's not that complicated. Hangar 1, Hangar 2, Hangar 3, and Hangar 4. And here, this area, we're polishing aluminium parts, painted parts, and of course carbon fiber parts. You see seats, center console, steering wheels, and we have a little bit of a guide here of different kind of levels of treatment to the carbon fiber. This is if they're not clear coated or painted. So here is what you get straight out of the tool. It's a pretty nice surface. It's absolutely fine for, I would say, maybe a racing car or a simpler, not so refined vehicle would be absolutely fine. And then just a quick polish, making it a little bit shinier, but still a little bit rough in the surface. And then we have this naked carbon fiber, which we call it, where we actually sand away all the thin epoxy layer up top and then polish up straight into the carbon. So when you touch this, it's actually colder to the touch, because the carbon content on the surface is much higher than a part out of the tool, which has this kind of film of epoxy that comes from the production process. So it's lighter, but it's also more scratch resistance, because epoxy is not as hard as pure carbon. And pure carbon is much harder than acrylic, which is a clear coat. So it's much more scratch resistant, it's lighter, it's colder to the touch, and has this metallic feel. There is one big downside of doing this though, it's super difficult. Because if you just sand a little bit too much, you break the visual look of the fibers of the first layer. Of course, most panels have more than one layer, so it's not that you kind of structurally damage it so much if you have a little bit of a breakthrough, because it's mostly the same thickness anyway over a bigger surface. But it's visually broken.
Yeah.
And when you have intricate parts like this, and you have to kind of sand just the thin microscopic layer of epoxy over and then polish it up without breaking the optics, is super difficult, and you need to be very skilled, and you might ruin a big part, you know. So it could be very expensive. But it's the lightest way you can surface a carbon fiber part. It's one of the most scratch resistant. You don't have any UV problem because there is no epoxy on top. So we tried this out in the field behind our building here, laying out parts for several years to see how it would stand the test of time. And we've actually we started doing this on our carbon fiber wheels in 2011, and those cars running around with those wheels still, and some of them pretty much on daily driving basis, they still look like this. So it really stands the test of time, at least for 11 years so far from a surface point of view. Yeah, so here we have our in-house paint shop where we do paint a lot of the cars. We also have some great collaborators which help us with painting, because at the pace we're going we cannot paint everything in-house, but a lot of the elaborate bespoke features and functions we do here, as they're quite proprietary. Here we have like a machining area that we're growing. We have a pretty big 5-axis CNC machine in here where we can do tooling materials, and these are, for example, for the carbon fiber wheels. We do also have a subsidiary in Barcelona with around 40 people with really big CNC machines that are working as part of our composite team here as an extension. So we're actually gone a little bit international. We're not only in Angelholm anymore, so that's quite exciting. And yeah, we're basically having a lot of different 3D printing apparatuses here. We're starting to get into 3D printing in metal more and more. This is an exhaust housing, but also that's actually a little Koenigsegg there with one of our newest printers, which can print a very high accuracy at extremely small scale. I don't know if you can zoom in on that.
It's quite hard to see. So that's the world's smallest Koenigsegg.
Probably.
Which is effectively from here shrunk down.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. And if you look at this one, this is actually 3D printed, and it's hard to see. Normally you always have this kind of rougher, grainier surface, but this is actually coming out shiny, so it's kind of interesting.
Yep. All the details, obviously, discovering new techniques and ways of doing things.
Exactly. So here we have composites, where we autoclaves. So we have 2 autoclaves here, and then we have also 3 more in Barcelona at our facility there.
So these have to be large enough for the biggest panels, for the rear clam, for example.
So clamshells, monocoques, wheels. This one you can fit any kind of Koenigsegg part into. It's huge.
Yes.
It's something we actually rebuilt ourselves from an old tractor tire creation machine from the 60s.
Oh wow, okay.
Because an autoclave is really a controlled pressure chamber with heat. And you need some piping and so on. So you can actually rebuild any kind of pressure vessel into an autoclave if you can get the right certification. So we do have some really fancy ones as well, but this one is pretty cool because it's kind of a bit steampunk, old school. That works really well, and it's very big. So here we have a composite layup. In here we have the cutting machine for the pre-preg, and very skilled artisans laying up the carbon fiber crash beams, hood panels, wings, steering wheel, seats, hollow carbon fiber wheels. Basically everything that goes into a Koenigsegg is made here.
So this is where you've effectively CNC'd all the pre-preg?
Yeah, exactly. These pre-preg parts are cut on the table over there and marked with numbers, and then you have these layup books, so you know which order to do it. Let's see, you can see here, there are like instructions for layup. Very traditional paper, but it's a nice carbon fiber holder for the paperwork.
As it should be, and working through the layers, getting the right strength and keeping everything super light.
Exactly. And this is what we call Hangar 3, which is our prototype area, pilot plant area, we can say. And this was not here when you were here last time. Actually, there was a Spitfire in here in a private jet that we managed to persuade they could find some other place to hang out.
So this is where there are probably plenty of secrets we need to avoid.
Yeah, yes, I would say so. And you can see upstairs here in the atrium we have our engineering department. So we have about close to 160 engineers sitting up there. But then we also have them in the other building and in that mezzanine over there. And in 3 months we have pretty much a copy-paste of this area, what we call is Hangar 4, which is the last hangar on the row of this street. So then we have the whole compound to ourselves. And that is happening very soon. And we're very, very crowded in this area, so we very much need more space. Yeah, so this was the first pre-production Jesko we showed about a year ago. Took it to the Koenigsegg tour in France. It's been through the testing phases, hot, cold climate, been to Dubai for hot testing. Its sister car, the black one up here, we just had in winter testing in north of Sweden. And behind that you can see one of the first Gemera test cars with all the systems installed.
So of course the testing process, which is what's undergoing at the moment, is pretty intensive for something like this. You don't just build the first car and hey, that's it.
Correct. No, it's years of testing and development, especially considering the amount of unique componentry we put into our cars. there are simpler ways of building fast hypercars than the principal Koenigsegg or that we are using, since we want to really push the boundaries and put in next generation, never seen before technology and solutions to have a more interesting total package. So we're really making our lives as difficult as possible, but as interesting as possible. And in order to keep kind of the excitement high and to be able to give our customers something truly unique. It's not a run-of-the-mill product whatsoever, of course. It's all very much bespoke and in every detail.
I'm sure when it comes to cars like this, I mean, this is a Jesko track, and so is the car behind.
Yes.
But the Absolute needs its own testing as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's very much different because with a different drag and aero and practicality reasons and different airflow through the radiators, different suspension, different tires. It's very much a different experience, and it needs its own development program to make sure all those aspects are honed in perfectly. And also its incredible high-speed capability, of course, a development program in itself.
So at the moment, Gemera,
yes,
with its TFG, is here in prototyping and testing as well.
Absolutely.
Soon in the future to be in the whole new facility
Correct.
being built just outside.
That's correct.
But I mean, this is a complete departure from every Koenigsegg model to date, really.
It is very much a ground-up new development in every aspect. We spoke a little bit earlier about the engine. It has some similarities to the V8 in the sense of how we understand combustion and renewable fuels. But apart from that, it's got, of course, this free valve technology and complete different characteristics, which is extremely fun to play with. It's really like such a tight power package. I mean, to get 600 horsepower out of a carry-on suitcase and 600 Newton meters, and not that's much more heavier than your carry-on suitcase, it's a very exciting challenge. And it enables the packaging of the Gemera to have this enormous interior space, even though it's a mid-engine car. You can see the engine is very much in front of the rear wheels. Anyway, you have this enormous space inside, which we pushed so hard for, and in the end, it became much bigger than I had even imagined, because we were in CAD and in testing. We can thin that surface, we can move that, we can lift this up a little bit and still maintain a nice roof line and still have the sense of a Koenigsegg and the sense of a two-seater mid-engine car. But we just kept on expanding and expanding and expanding, and in the end, it just became enormously spacious inside, which I think is really what the car is about, apart from its absolutely wild performance.
I was going to say, even without the performance, it would be something special. Throw in the fact that it can accelerate quicker than you can blink, and it's a different machine.
Yeah, the performance is unbelievable. So it will be so exciting to let people have a go and see what they say.
For sure, for sure. Looking forward to seeing more of it.
Yeah, so this is pretty much the internals of the LST transmission. This is a prototype build. So here you can see some of the clutch packs. You can see 1, 2, 3. So you have 3 there, and then you have 3 in here. And then the way you mix and compound these is how you get your 9 gears. This is the 7th clutch. I haven't spoken much about. That's for reverse.
Yep.
But if you have a hybrid car, for example, you can remove this and then you can reverse electrically.
Yes.
So this is for a non-hybrid application like the Jesko.
Makes sense. And it's tiny.
It's very small.
And then, is this the engine dyno?
Yes, so here we have the prototype engine dyno, and I think today we have a Jesko engine in the dyno, and I hope we can fire it up so you can hear it. So this is a production spec engine going through kind of hard testing, longevity testing and stuff like that.
Okay.
And training on servicing aspects.
Every engine gets bench run for every car?
Absolutely, but not in this dyno. This is development dyno. We have a production dyno in the other room, and then we will have 3 production dynos in the new facility as well.
Ready, and it's easy to swap this in and out?
Yeah, it takes about 1 hour. It's on a trolley, and outside we have, for example, the 3-cylinder TFG on a trolley. So we can basically do an engine swap here in about 2 hours, going from one engine to another. And actually behind, a couple of meters behind this wall in Hangar 4, we're doing the world's most extreme 4-wheel dyno for a full car. That will be finished in a few months. So we can go up to a total of, I think, 3,000 horsepower with 4-wheel drive torque vectoring. And it's also a heat chamber, and you can also cool it down.
Okay.
So, and you can go over 500 kilometers per hour on it with full power.
Perfect for
It's
testing.
the most extreme one I've ever heard of, and it's all custom made for our needs. So it's quite exciting to get that up and running.
Wow. Sounds pretty amazing. The sound of power.
It's pretty wild.
It is, it shakes the room. Wow, we'll hear it out.
Let's see what it sounds like in a car.
Well, definitely, let's head out. Before we head on though, this is all becoming the Gemera area.
Yes, this is the new extension for the Gemera. So we will have the Gemera production in here. We will have 3 engine dynos for the TFGs and the V8s, an engine build area, transmission build area, all of those kind of things. But in the front of the building, there will be a new showroom and a new customer area where you can specify the cars with some new interesting kind of augmented reality things and stuff like that, and a little bit secluded area. And then we're also doing a kind of an exhibition area where we can have around 200 people sitting and standing and have car presentations and car unveils at the factory. And then there is office area upstairs, and then there is a little restaurant, cafeteria area over here as well. So this will be converted into kind of a park for employees and people working here and customers and cars mingling. We're going to maintain this kind of helicopter pad that's been here since the military days, but refine it a little bit and more adapting it for VTOL purposes of more environmental flight and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and then if I'm right, the Gemeras and the Jeskos will all arrive for the final PDT, PDI.
Yeah, so at that side of the building, it will be a PDT area for the whole company, for aftermarket, for Gemera production, for Jesko production and other cars, but also taking care of the fleet of the cars that Koenigsegg have and so on. So a complete kind of PDT area for everything.
Okay, well, I think before we head to the airfield and the runway, we're going to go check out the new Jesko facility as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Let's go over. Here we are.
Yeah, so this is the rolling chassis line for the Jesko, and this is in a new facility we acquired last year, which we're still kind of getting into. We have 4 ships, and this is ship number 2, and then we have warehouse for Jesko and the mega car line, and then the Gemera line as well, a warehouse for that, and the pre-production of the chassis over there for the Gemera. But I think we're here for the Jesko, so let's see the line of the rolling chassis.
I mean, you've expanded to having a significant amount of space now.
Yeah, we've gone from being very, very cramped to being very, very spacious.
Yes, polar opposites.
It's kind of, it was exciting being cramped because you really had to plan your space, but it was also annoying when you did not have enough space and you had to move around stuff all the time and got inefficiencies from that. Now we're kind of, what are we going to do with all the space sort of thing? But I'd rather have a little bit too much than too little. And we're filling it up quicker than we thought.
Yes, I can believe it. Well,
so we can start at the bottom of the line here, where we have the carbon monocoque bonding jig. And on the side here we do the pre-assemblies of front ends and rear ends and door hinges, lamps, pedal boxes, interior parts, uprights, things like that. And then we're feeding that to the main line here. But we're starting here at what we call rolling chassis 20, which is the bonding jig for the carbon fiber monocoque. So right now we don't have anything in here, but it's kind of bonded in 2 stages. And we're having this line is designed to be able to run a 3-day cycle if needed. Okay. So getting a rolling chassis out every 3rd day. We're planning to hit about a week cycle in the middle of summer 2022. And then speeding up at the end of the year to a 3-day cycle. So here we can see the Jesko monocoque being more and more ready, bonded in these jigs. And then they're coming out of this jig into this stage here. We can see this one with the dashboard over here.
Develops as we go through.
Yeah, and then you start putting equipment in, electronics, cables. And the cables are being manufactured right behind us. All the wiring harnesses for the car, so that's completely locally produced next to the line of the cars.
So up to this point, I mean, you're not yet at specification of the cars or anything like that?
Right, so on this line, the only specification we get is left or right-hand drive, or let's say Europe or US differences if there are any. And then when they are on wheels at the end of the line, we take them to the main production line where all the bespoking happens, where the customized bodywork, the customized interior, anything custom specific goes into the car, and it becomes an individual and the VIN number and everything.
Yes, so all of the interior trims, different paint shop
Yeah,
work,
so-
and that's all happening at the same
So this
time.
stuff under the skin anyway has to be very, very similar on each car for homologation reasons, for crash testing reasons and so on. So we kind of divided it a line for where they are very, very similar, and the final line, which is our traditional megacar line at our original hangar, where they become unique individuals and Koenigsegg cars for the customers.
That makes sense. So what is the finished state of a car, the finished stage when it's...
So it's down here. This is getting close to it. So it's going to get the engine in here. It's going to go down on wheels. There is one station after which we haven't reached yet with that one, this car here. So it's basically like a big black go-kart in a sense. You can fire up the electronics, you could fire up the engine pretty much. So it's kind of technically alive.
Okay, and you could go out for a fairly unusual drive almost.
Yes.
So even the windshield glass goes in.
Yes,
here.
yes. That's also something that is the same on all the cars,
Yes.
of course. So.
Wow, this is really quite exciting to see. I can't imagine for you this must be...
Yeah, so we're up and running with the Jesko's production line, so it's very exciting times, and yeah, soon they're rolling off the line.
Well, we shall head, I think, from here to go and see what one is like when it's rolled off the line.
Yeah,
Let's head
absolutely.
over.
Let's do that.
This is a pretty special sight.
To me too, actually. It's the first time I see them together here on our beautiful runway in the sunshine. It's a special moment.
The track and the Absolute. And I tell you what, it's fascinating, obviously, to see these two cars and to see the differences between them. Because while you might initially just think it's down to with wing or without wing, there's actually a lot more to it.
Oh yes, thousands of hours in wind tunnels and simulations, aero simulations, fine-tuning. The purpose of this is maximum downforce, and it goes together with the chassis. It has triplex suspension in the front and in the rear. The triplex is active front and rear, bump and rebound is active, and then you have a hydraulic lifter also on the triplex on the front and the rear. On the Absolute, as you have much less downforce, you don't even have a triplex on the front to hold the car up, and you don't need it. So there we can store the roof in the front still. There is no air dam in the front because we don't want the drag or the downforce on that car there. And the tires are different, the wheels are different, the bodywork is completely different, the rear end is completely remade to have lower drag and less downforce. So they're very much fundamentally different, but shares the DNA of the chassis, the engine, the interior, the glass area and so on. But otherwise, the feeling of driving them is completely different. This is a quite much more comfortable car, and you can stow the roof in the front like on most Koenigseggs. While this one, you can take it off, but you cannot put it in the front. So it also has bigger luggage space, of course, due to that.
I mean, I remember, of course, because we took a look at the Absolute when you introduced it just over 2 years ago now. Obviously, the rear is a totally different style design. Replaced the wing with these fins, the blades that you have over the rear deck.
High-speed stabilizers, and I think I maybe mentioned back then what surprised us about these is that not only do we increase high-speed stability with them as they're directing the car, they're actually reducing the drag as well, which came as a surprise. So we optimized them to further reduce the drag, as they were already starting to do that, and for even greater high-speed stability. Then of course this car still has downforce. You can see you have this kind of a little bit ducktail here. You have a massive Venturi underneath with a good Venturi effect under the center of the car, which is usually difficult with mid-engine cars because normally your transaxle transmission sticks out back there, so you cannot have a Venturi effect on the center. And on the center of the Venturi tunnel is actually where you get the most effect if you can lift up the tunnel. So that is a huge advantage on both cars, that the tunnel can do that. Then we have the dish over the rear wheel. You can actually dismount these, and the wheel looks similar to the Attack, but this further reduces the drag and increases high-speed stability. So, and it gives a very unique look that goes together with the car. This is flattened out to again reduce drag, compared to the attack version.
And around the front, big changes. The
yes,
splitter,
the louvers here are again smoothed out and has a little bit less air release and less disturbance of the flow over the body. The front splitter is of course much smaller to give less downforce. It doesn't have the winglet on the side or the big air dam on the center.
It's actually fascinating to see. It's almost a totally, let's say, different car, but customers have the choice which they
can choose whichever one they want.
out of the 125
so
cars.
The ultimate track weapon or the ultimate road-going missile. This is still super fun on a track, and we will go out on it in it today. But it's softer sprung and much less downforce, but still a great car on a track. And of course, given that it has less downforce, it's also a little bit, let's say, more lenient on the limit. So it's fun to power slide around with it and so on.
And this particular car is getting towards the end of testing, I suppose?
Yeah, so we actually took this out for the first time like 2 days ago in its finalized form. And we're just setting it up, so it's still kind of some fine-tuning going on. And you're the very first person to see it together with us out in the open today.
It's an absolute honor. I suppose, if we can, shall we hop on board? And
let's do so.
The auto skin.
Yeah.
It's always magnificent. Here we are inside the Jesko Absolute.
Yeah, exactly.
So hit the button, and the door closes itself on down. Just like magic.
So here we have the starting button. Press the brake.
Here we are. It's a completely different sound.
Yes.
It's instantly much, much higher pitch.
I will just rev it slowly so you can hear
Speechless at the moment. This sounds incredible. It sounds absolutely incredible.
It's just a different experience to any car we ever built before.
Yes.
It's just something. It just feels like a big go-kart to me. It's so it's just in the palm of your hand.
That noise is amazing, but so is the G-force meter.
Yeah, it's a fun thing. It's completely analog. It's still being tuned in this car, but we can see the weight is moving it, so it has no electronics whatsoever. It's a little bit like a Swiss watch, you can say. Now I'm pushing 1/3 of the throttle.
Yes. You were saying that it's quite a different suspension setup.
Yeah, so this one is very comfortable. Of course, you have different settings. You can lower the car, you can stiffen it up, but it's got a much softer spring ratio because we don't need so hard for the lower downforce. So it still doesn't roll much at all anyway, but it's very, very comfortable on a normal road.
I was going to say, by normal car standards, that's flat.
Exactly, it's extremely flat. It's a little bit stiffer than a Regera actually.
Okay.
And that is a super well handling car. It's just that the attack version is insane.
Yes.
From that perspective. But you can also feel when you lift the throttle, there is not a lot of drag on the car. It just rolls because it's so slippery. So it's made for high speed.
Yeah.
High speed stability. It's very friendly car. You can take off the roof, you can put it in the front, you can enjoy the sun. For its extreme nature, it's very user friendly.
I tell you what, it still very much feels like a Koenigsegg though. It's still very dramatic and exciting. As it should be, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what it's all about. It should go beyond any normal experience. I mean, they're hand-built with extreme components and extreme technological solutions, so you really need to feel that when you drive it. I will blip the throttle, you'll see how fast it's revving.
It flies up.
It's just crazy.
That's up to the red line literally quicker than you can blink.
It's crazy.
The fastest revving production engine.
Yep, that we ever measured or ever heard of.
I mean, it's almost on or off.
I mean, when you go like that, it is. It's just nuts.
Wow.
So that makes it really exciting to drive. You have that like electric motor combustion engine, but no hybrid.
Yeah, it's just full traditional combustion engine, traditional in the loosest sense, given that the level of engineering is
exactly
from the future. But the way that's mega. Well, that was quite something.
Yeah, it's first time I drive actually this Absolute ever personally. It's just off the prototype station build, just unteething it and getting it into its paces, and it's very exciting times. And yeah, we'll see what we can do with it.
So from here, it's a couple of months, I suppose, of testing and.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna, of course, use our test facilities here and the local racetracks, and then go further and further into bigger playing fields.
Well, that was absolutely amazing. All I can say is thank you so very much for the opportunity.
My pleasure, and thank you for coming, Shmee.
Always. So, sound of silence and the auto skin for the doors. That's just the cherry on the cake, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a system that is very lightweight, but gives this little extra practicality and flair, I would say, right?
I think flair is completely it, and that's part of what something like this is. It's the emotional.
Right. As long as it's, you can stand for it from a weight and not over-compromising perspective, but we really put in an effort to have almost zero negative impact from a weight kind of space perspective, but you have the drama and the practicality there. So.
Well, it's fantastic, and the sound is just glorious.
It is something we're very, very happy about. I mean, we had high hopes, but the way this engine responds and the way it sounds and the way it behaves is just completely unique and super exciting, I think.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
I suppose we should step on out. I have very few words for today. Thank you so much for showing us around the exciting changes, I suppose, going on at the factory and the assembly of the Jeskos, and today to have experienced Absolute. I mean, exciting times, I think, for the company.
We're super excited, and thank you, Tim, for coming all the way, and so happy to show you what we're up to. The next time you come back, we will we'll let you have a go and see what you think.
That sounds quite exciting to me, to hopefully see you up in full operation with the assembly of customer cars, I think.
That's coming on shortly.
Wow, thank you so much.
Thanks, Tim.
Amazing.
Enjoy the day. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
This has been a day of epic proportions to explore at Koenigsegg, to see the process behind the cars like this. Of course, the epitome of hypercar, in fact, mega car. We haven't gone too much into the technical specifications, let's just say. These cars are very, very fast, 1,600 horsepower. And in fact, on an earlier visit when the Jesko was originally introduced, and again when the Absolute was presented, Christian did a full walk around to show me the cars in detail. But today, to have experienced a bit of the feeling of the engine, the sound of the engine, to have seen around the assembly process, to have visited the new areas at Koenigsegg where these cars are soon going to be going into build for customers. What a special opportunity. I cannot thank Christian for his time and for the whole team for everything that they do to make the cars like this. It's been 10 years since my first visit here to Angelholm. I think I've probably been about 10 times in the interim. Always a special place, some exceptional cars, and what a delight to top it off with a ride on board today, the Jesko Absolute. I believe the first time the car has been out. So a huge thanks again to Christian and the team. What a day. Thank you as always to you guys for your support. I hope you've enjoyed the visit today to experience a little bit behind the scenes of what it's all about. That's it for this time though. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers.